you the sports betting in order for you to become a successful gambler. We have 5 packages that I think really do an incredible job of providing the information tailored to you, what you want, and what your sports betting needs are. For more information, reach out to the TWSN team, but we have a ton of stuff coming your way. Content from fantasy football, sports betting for UFC, NBA, NHL, and of course, the NFL. We are so excited to be able to bring this service to you, and let us know if there's any more information you need.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Welcome into the TWSN YouTube channel. This is On the Ball here on another Friday night at 8 p.m. live on the Right Way Sports Network YouTube channel. I'm your host, Will Lachlan, of course, joined by all my co-hosts, Justin, Nader, and Jacob. Guys, how are we doing? Justin, you're, Denver Broncos looking like probably going to go 3-0, but just how's your overall mood on life, man?
3-0 is halfway to 6-0, so that's a step towards the goal that
is math.
Yeah. We'll accomplish it, and we're about to smash another New York team. Jacob's pretty familiar with the Broncos for the season. He knows we're legit, so I'm going to keep my trash talking back.
Mickey Mouse schedule. That's what you've got so far.
And the best defense
schedule.
And the best defense in football. But this isn't a football show. The Broncos are the best team out of all these teams here.
In.
So, I'll save my trash talking for later once the Broncos make the wild card game.
Jacob, speaking of 3 weeks, we're about 3 to 4 weeks until the NBA season. And that's really where this show is going to take off.
We are indeed. You said it best. We are very, very close to the NBA season. I think we all can't wait. We're all, I think, tired of, having to rummage our brain to think of topics for the show and, let the NBA do the work for us. But yeah, we are I think I'm excited. The rest of you are excited. Half the world's excited. I want to watch basketball again, and I just can't wait for it to start.
Yeah. Nader, what about you, man? What's going on with you?
It's going good, man. Excited for another episode of On the Ball. We're at that part of the offseason where Dunk is running out of posts to make, so they just start making the weirdest stuff ever. So I'm excited for NBA to get back. We got some amazing opening night games, and it's only a few weeks away, so I'm getting really excited.
Yeah, I think we're kind of transitioning, though, to the point where it's less about just, social media posting random stuff and getting in these random debates on Twitter and Instagram because there's just no news. And now we're kind of transitioning to the point where we actually have some news to talk about. The hype is starting to build for the season. Inevitably, we're going to have that, preseason will start and we'll all be excited for the first day of preseason. And then after that, it'll completely drop off and we'll be familiar with how boring preseason normally is. We're almost at that point. But that means NBA is just around the corner and we cannot wait. Of course, before we start getting into our topics, I'd like to remind you guys to drop a like if you enjoy us talking about basketball. And please comment down below your thoughts, because we promise we will put up the comments and we'll engage with you, answer any questions you guys have. So please engage in the topics that we're discussing. Love to engage with you guys. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Recently hit 1,000 subscribers. We're on the road to 2,000, so help us get there. And now it's time to discuss some NBA basketball. First topic is going to be about the Minnesota Timberwolves, where unfortunately, talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves, the news isn't very positive. They have fired Gersson Rosas, who's their president of basketball operations, aka basically their general manager. And obviously, Karl-Anthony Towns really didn't appreciate that. He right after the move happened, he tweeted out WTF right after they made the move. So Nader, we'll start with you on this one. Do you think this puts even more pressure on the Timberwolves to win this upcoming season, or else Karl-Anthony Towns is going to request a trade?
Yeah, so I've been a fan of basketball since the 2014-2015 NBA season. Just for reference, that's when Andrew Wiggins was a rookie, when the first Cavs and Warriors matchup happened in the finals. And ever since that, my first memory of the Timberwolves was Karl-Anthony Towns and them being the worst team in the NBA. And for years and years and years, as I've grown up, I've never seen the Timberwolves have an above-average team, except the Jimmy Butler era, where they got knocked out in the first round by the Rockets. And I'll say this, if Karl-Anthony Towns isn't happy, that's not good. I mean, of course the Timberwolves weren't in any situation to try and win last year, but I was actually surprised with the team that they were building up, their coaching moves. And I wasn't necessarily a big fan of the firing, but it's whatever they think is important. I don't know how this, whoever steps up, whoever's going to take over, I don't know how he's going to make this team good enough for Karl Anthony Towns to be avid to stay here. But I was really impressed. You know, I have a friend that's a Timberwolves fan, and I've been talking with him a lot about the team, and their ceiling is a potential play-in spot. They have a guy like McDaniels, who is a rising star in my opinion. He's going to be a really good NBA player. You have D'Angelo Russell, great playmaker and secondary scorer. Karl Anthony Towns, one of the best offensive big men you can argue ever right now. One of the best big men shooter ever, and an above average, and he's turning him into an above average rim protector. And then you got Anthony Edwards, who was a top 15 scorer in the NBA for the second half of last season, barring injuries and all that. But I was really excited for this Timberwolves team. It's definitely a step back when it comes to the morale. I do think that, though, if they find someone like the Bulls did with Arturas Karnisovas, a guy that's established, a guy that's known to come in, make cunning, clever moves, I think that it can end up being solid. But for now, I'm not a huge fan of it.
Yeah, Justin, just give me your overall, your first split-second reaction to the move, and then also, what's your reaction to also Karl Anthony Towns, of course, what he had to think on social media after the move was made.
So my first reactions to the Timberwolves firing Rosas is it's confusing. Although the Wolves haven't been good in a while since Jimmy Butler, I mean, they've built a really good roster, and Rosas has obviously been a big part of that. He was the main guy making moves for the front office, and they've managed to acquire a lot of talent. And outside of Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, although LaMelo Ball was probably the optimal number one pick in terms of best player available, Edwards was the best fit, and Edwards isn't a slouch at all. He's definitely going to be an All-NBA performer at his peak in the future. And next year, I think he'll be around 22, 23 points per game, which for a second-year player, that's amazing. And D'Angelo Russell, you're pairing Cat with one of his best friends in the entire league, which it's perfect. And although they did have to give up that pick, I mean, I still think it was a pretty good move for them. And then other guys like Jaden McDaniels, Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, I think, is the most underrated player on this team potentially. Naz Reid, Josh Okogie, who I think is pretty solid, Jalen Noel, who's underrated as well. And the Patrick Beverly move was one I really liked. And hiring Chris Finch as the coach is kind of seemed, although he's only coached for a few games towards the second half of the year last season, he showed that he's a great NBA coach already because his ability to run an offense and game plan an offense, it looked great. And the Timberwolves were winning games under him. So I was shocked to see Rosas being let go. And I heard the reason for this was because they potentially wanted to go after Masai Ujiri next offseason, which I kind of think is unrealistic unless they throw him a lot of money. I don't think they're going to get him. And I mean, I heard this on Twitter the other day. I don't know if it's true, but there's a theory going around that they fired Rosas because he was unwilling to give up one of D'Angelo Russell or Anthony Edwards in a trade for Ben Simmons. And I'm just thinking to myself, if you're firing your GM because he didn't want to give up one of those players in a Ben Simmons trade, that's terrible management. But in terms of Karl Anthony Towns, I think this is just like, I think unless they have a big year next year, which I think they'll have a big year. I said they'll make the second round, although I don't think that anymore. Making some new predictions, I still think they'll be a 6th seed in the West, which is much better than the years.
Good decision, Justin. Good decision.
Yeah. It's much better than the year prior, a 6th seed. And even a play-in spot's much better. So unless they get into the play-in or playoffs, I think the playoffs they have to get to this year to keep Karl Anthony Towns happy on this team. Unless they get to the playoffs, I think Karl Anthony Towns is going to start to question his future next season, next offseason. And if they lose him, a generational offensive big man, I mean, they will get a massive haul in return for him, but you're losing someone that, like, you don't want to trade Karl Anthony Towns. That's a player that you want to keep untouchable. So, I mean, I think at some point, unless they have a big year, which I think they will, he's going to become unhappy. So, and this move even moves the needle for that.
Jacob, do you think Rosas, he didn't have too long of a tenure as the Timberwolves president of basketball operations, but do you think he made good moves when he was there? And do you ultimately think he was kind of the problem for the Timberwolves, or was it just management and ownership and the people that fired him? Do you think those people are the problem?
The best way to describe the Timberwolves is that they have been in a constant wheel of dysfunction for a very long time, practically since they were a friend. I mean, well, minus the Kevin Garnett years, but anything but has been pretty much a wheel of dysfunction. There's no other way to say it. I think that with Rosas, I mean, he did make good moves. Some of the draft picks, Edwards, obviously, just other people like getting Naz Reid, other people like getting Finch. The thing about him too, exactly. Yeah. And I think the real reason I think he got fired is because from what I've read and other stuff, it just seems like people didn't like him in the organization, not players, but like just the people that were working for the Timberwolves. It just seemed like he didn't get along with them. It seemed like that they had apparently been planning this for a while, and that people just didn't like the way he handled himself. That's what I read. Other things that other things that he did that didn't necessarily weren't that weren't him living up to his professional standards, if you will. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for the players. It's unfortunate for Karl-Anthony Towns. Obviously, as you alluded to before, he's upset. If I'm him, I don't understand how he can just be so like, I get it. You want to be loyal, but it's just like, to me, they don't make it just any, they have to make some improvement, but like they don't take a somewhat of a bigger leap. He's gone, in my opinion. I don't know how he can be okay with just staying there forever. And there'll be plenty of people that will want him, even though he's locked up for a while. And with his contract, I just think that, with him, he's definitely got to be distressed. And the thing that I find the most fascinating is that Chris Finch was handpicked by Rosas. Literally, he was already had a job with another organization, and in the middle of the season, he became the head coach of a new team. So I know he's gotten good marks, but I wonder what his job security is with this new GM or president of basketball operations, because obviously when you make changes like that, when a new president comes in, they may not want like the coach or they may not like certain personnel. So to me, I have a great level of intrigue on what's going to happen with the Timberwolves moving forward.
Going back to Justin's point, even when you're talking about Karl-Anthony Towns leaving the Timberwolves, that just blows my mind. As I said, I was like 7 years old when I got into basketball. I'm currently 14 and I'll be 15 in March. And basically my entire basketball life, Karl-Anthony Towns has been a Timberwolf, and they still haven't won. So that's basically taking 8 years of your franchise that you've been trying to build around this generational talent. And I do not blame him whatsoever. Don't get that mixed up. Karl-Anthony Towns is literally the GOAT. So when you think about it, you're throwing away 8 years of your franchise because your inability to put a winning team around a guy that obviously deserves to win. And I'm just very disappointed in the Timberwolves franchise.
Yeah. And this is why organizations like the Timberwolves, they go through just years and years of wasting generational talent. It's because of so much instability when it comes to the front office. You hire someone to do the job and you want them to establish a culture and make some moves and put together their team. But you can't do that if you fire them a few years into their tenure, especially after they've made positive moves. And what I don't get is this roster, obviously the whole thing hasn't been built by Rosas, but Rosas has built this roster, a lot of the roster. He, drafted Anthony Edwards, you traded and drafted McDaniels, and you traded for Patrick Beverley this offseason. And you didn't even wait around to see if the roster and the pieces that Rosas has built around Karl-Anthony Towns right now in 2021, you didn't even wait to see if those pieces are going to be able to improve the team or not. Maybe I understand this move if there's a lot of dysfunction when it comes to ownership and disagreeing with Rosas, and couple that with the fact that the Timberwolves, they aren't winning and they're showing no improvements. Anthony Edwards doesn't develop or whatever. And maybe Patrick Beverley, the move doesn't end up being that impactful and the Timberwolves show no improvement next season. Okay, then I kind of get that. But doing it right before the roster that he's had a huge part in building is about to, be together and healthy finally, it just doesn't make any sense. And I think it just points to the overall issue of organizational instability when it comes to just roster building, and especially with the front office and the GM. That's exactly why organizations like the Minnesota Timberwolves have gone through decades of just a generational player, in Kevin Garnett decades ago, they had to trade him. And now we have another situation with Karl-Anthony Towns, another generational big man talent who could be walking out the door in a trade. And like you said, I forget if it was Justin or Nader said about the trade. yeah, they could get a lot of pieces back, but ultimately how, teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves, you build an organization up and you build, your team up and win in the NBA, in the National Basketball Association. It's you draft generational kind of players like a Karl Anthony Towns and you build around them. You don't want to be trading them away for just some pieces that, the pieces will help and they'll have a fresh start, but you can't be doing that every 10 years. It's not going to, it's not good. And this completely points to the fact that why organizations like the Timberwolves are just failing across decades of time to me. And it's really unfortunate. I hope the Timberwolves, the team that Rosas partially assembled, and he's not even with the organization anymore. I hope that they can actually have some improvement. And we talked about it a few weeks ago, we think they can, but it's just really disappointing. And I definitely feel bad for Karl Anthony Towns because he's clearly not a fan of this move. But let's move on to some awards previews. We're going to be previewing every NBA award, all 6 of them. We're going to do 2 at a time. So we'll do most improved player and 6th man of the year for this week. So let's each of us will give our, favorite for the award, who we think will win, and then maybe like one sleeper candidate of a guy who, has an outside shot, but we could see them being in the race at the end of the day. So Justin, we'll start with you on this one. Who do you like for most improved player?
For most improved player, we talked about some breakout candidates last week, and I wrote 2 articles on 5 guys that I think could make a breakout next year. Go check it out. But there's a lot of guys that I think could be in this conversation, but I've narrowed it down to 3 players. That's Michael Porter Jr., Karis LeVert, and Will wrote an article on Karis LeVert, so go check that out too. But Michael Porter Jr., Karis LeVert, and OG Anunoby. And out of those 3, I'm probably going Michael Porter Jr. to win this award. I think with Jamal Murray out until, I believe, the All-Star break, that's what his timetable is. With him out, I still think the Nuggets are good enough to be one of the top teams in the entire league record-wise. And I think Michael Porter Jr., the strides he made last year with the opportunity he got, he averaged near 20 points per game on pretty insane efficiency. And no one really notices this, but he had one of the most efficient seasons of all time. Obviously, that's not saying he's one of the best offensive players of all time, but for him to be scoring at that level of efficiency, that's just incredible. He's already one of the best shooters in the league. He's a great scorer, although he hasn't shown some elite shot creation right away. I think with more reps and more of training over the offseason, I think he's going to develop a very reliable shot creation game and handle next season. And I think he's going to be a really impactful secondary scorer to Nikola Jokic. And I think guys like Michael Porter Jr., obviously the defense, although it got a little better, it's still not there. His playmaking and IQ are still a little lackluster. But guys like Michael Porter Jr., what they could do is almost irreplaceable on a championship team. Just guys that can play off ball to the highest level in the NBA, one of the best off-ball players in the NBA. He's 6'10", and I think he's going to be able to create a lot more next season. And yeah, he has shown flashes of creation, but I think it's going to go to a whole nother level next year. And I think he's going to become one of the best offensive wings in basketball, while the Nuggets have, I believe, the top record in the Western Conference. And I believe it'll be close from like 1 to 5, but I think the Nuggets will finish as the 1 seed. And this might be a little bold, but for his stat predictions, I think he could very well average 24 and 7 on 50, 40, 90. I think we're going to see something out of Michael Porter Jr. that we don't see from many players in the league. His efficiency, his scoring output. I think he's going to have a special season, and I think this is the first season to many all-NBA seasons. I don't think he'll make an all-NBA team, but this is the first season to his stardom. So I'm going Michael Porter Jr. here.
Yeah, most improved player. It's an interesting award. Obviously, Julius Randle won it last year, but Jeremy Grant could have won it. Michael Porter Jr. was in the running as well, and all 3 of those guys, especially the first 2 I mentioned, Grant and Randle, had massive increases in all their statistics. And this was tough for me. I think a few guys, but it's hard because before the season, trying to think of guys to project. A couple that I've thought about, I think Keldon Johnson. I feel like he showed a lot of good signs last year, and I think that I don't know if he'll take a huge jump, but I do think he will get noticeably better another year under his belt. Another one was James Wiseman. I know that half this company hates James Wiseman. I don't really care. You know who you are. But I believe in him. I know he's frail. I know that he needs to like eat a meal every once in a while. Him and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander together, but I think he can play. I think that him being Golden State is very good. I think that if he can stay healthy, I think he'll get better. I mean, again, he wasn't that bad last year. He just wasn't that great. But then again, everyone knew that this draft class was not going to be very good anyway. So people that got their hopes up were, crazy. And again, he played like 3 games in college, so he needs some time to develop. And I think that he'll continue to develop this season. I think that he definitely has a shot of winning most improved player if he takes a significant jump. But I do think he's more than capable of doing it.
And that leaves my pick, and it's going to be another Western Conference Porter Jr., but it's not going to be Michael Porter Jr. It's going to be Kevin Porter Jr., shooting guard for the Rockets. And, NBA Twitter and NBA Instagram just seem to love this guy, and I don't blame him. You could tell that him and Jalen Green, they're going to make one fun scoring duo for years to come. And we've seen flashes of what Kevin Porter could do in Cleveland. He wasn't the best fit in Cleveland because he was rumored to have a lot of attitude issues and be just an overall locker room menace, just someone that wasn't loved by his teammates. Some guys liked him, some guys didn't. He threw fits over Taurean Prince taking his locker or something like that. But I believe that he's really liking Houston. He's really good friends with Jalen Green. He's in a new team and in it just a really new energy, a new era of Houston basketball that he's a main part of. This Houston basketball is new. A few years ago, we were looking at James Harden, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook. Of course, Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul were not on the same teams, but we're looking at a contending team. And now we're looking at a new era filled with young, fresh new faces, especially in the 2021 NBA draft class. You guys got like Alperen Sengun, you guys got Usman Garuba, Josh Christopher, Jalen Green, as I said before, and he's just another young guy that's ready to go. I think that he has really high scoring potential. And with the narrative already starting, as I like to say, media narratives play a huge role in these awards. And I think that Kevin Porter Jr. has a really good shot at winning it this year.
I'll be honest, Nader, you actually stole my pick. I mean, we're not doing a draft. I feel like we are doing a draft here. Nader stole my pick.
Of course I did.
Kevin Porter Jr. is my favorite. But, that's fine because I had another guy. This is for reference, though. This is not my actual prediction. This is my sleeper prediction. But I'll still talk about him regardless. And that's Kyle Kuzma. From my Washington Wizards. I think he's a sleeper pick. Don't think he'll win the award, to be quite honest, but the opportunity, my biggest thing with him is the opportunity will be there for Kyle Kuzma. He's obviously had problems with, really as soon as, LeBron James got there, Kyle Kuzma, he kept him on the roster. LeBron, he kept Kyle Kuzma on the roster, but he didn't, Kyle Kuzma just never got his chance to really a certified role to thrive in like he did his rookie year. And I think we can get back to what we kind of saw from Kyle Kuzma in his rookie year, which was he was such an exciting young player with just a lot of opportunities to score from a lot of different areas on the court. And I think we could definitely see that with the Washington Wizards. Wizards are pretty deep. They have a lot of bench pieces, a lot of front court pieces. But I think Kyle Kuzma is ready to kind of establish himself. Again, this is a sleeper pick, so this could easily backfire. But I think Kyle Kuzma is in for a lot of improvement in the 2021 season with a new situation is huge for Kyle Kuzma. A lot of the NBA is very situational, and especially for a guy like Kyle Kuzma, who sometimes he has his nights where he's super on and sometimes he'll have his nights where he's ice cold. But again, if he can really get into a certified role, establish himself in that role, and be a great scoring combo forward off the bench for the Wizards, and he can gain a lot of confidence. I mean, Kyle Kuzma he's the kind of player that if he has all the confidence going for him, then I'm not going to say he can be unstoppable, but can be really tough to guard for a lot of guys in this league. So Kyle Kuzma is going to be my sleeper pick for most improved player. Now let's go to sixth man of the year. Justin, we'll cycle back to you. Who's your sixth man of the year prediction or pick?
So last year, the award went to Jordan Clarkson, and it should have went to Joe Ingles, but I think it's well known that the sixth man of the year award is just the high volume scoring player off the bench. So Joe Ingles, although I think, again, he'll be the deserving winner, I don't think he's going to win. So in that case, I've narrowed this down to 4 players, which is Derrick Rose, Tyler Hero, Jordan Clarkson, who was last year's winner, obviously, and Kobe White. And out of these 4 players, I'm going to go with Derrick Rose to win the Sixth Man of the Year award because I think last year, if Derrick Rose was on the Knicks for the whole season, first of all, I think he would have won it. And as Nader said, a lot of awards are narrative based. This is Derrick Rose, one of the most popular players in the league, one of the most beloved players in the league. And if Derrick Rose is having a season where he's averaging 18 points per game on great efficiency, he's closing games the way he did last year in New York, especially in a market like that. And New York's winning games. I have them missing the playoffs by a hair, but I think they'll be in the play, and I think they'll make the second round of the play-in. But Derrick Rose, I think he's going to be that high-volume guy off the bench. And I think him closing games, I think that's going to really push the narrative because I think he's going to have a lot of moments down the stretch next year like he did last year as well, where he just closes games and gets hot down the stretch, and you can't guard him. And I think that's going to be a big part. So I think Derrick Rose wins this award pretty easily. And the sleeper pick I want to talk about is Tyler Hero. Obviously, a lot of people hate him because in the bubble, he was great. His rookie year, he was great. After his sophomore season, not great at all, especially in the playoffs. But I think on a better Heat team, in a more certified role where now you have Kyle Lowry, who's one of the best playmakers in the league, Jimmy Butler, one of the best playmakers in the league, Bam Adebayo should only be getting better. They added PJ Tucker. Duncan Robinson is a guy, we know his role. He's a shooter. I think Tyler Hero knows that he's the guy that's going to get these buckets down the stretch in pretty large spurts, and I think he's going to take a jump next year. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the most improved candidate race, and I think he's going to average around 17, 18 points per game. And another guy I want to add, I'm not going to talk much about him, but I forgot to add him. He's in my race as well, Malik Monk of the Lakers. I think off the bench, he's going to be a big part. I think he's going to have a big scoring year, and his efficiency will maintain. But I think this award goes to Derrick Rose, and it's pretty hard for me to see him not winning unless he gets hurt.
So Justin, I actually thought about Malik Monk as one of my guys. He didn't really steal him from me because I wasn't going to gloat about him too much. But yeah, this is an interesting award. There are some people that I had to think, and I really think if I had to pick, I kind of have like two sleeper-ish guys. I'll name three, and I'll make it real quick. I promise. I think Danilo Gallinari has a good shot at winning this award. I loved how he fit with the Hawks last year, and he's coming off the bench because I highly doubt they're going to start him with the amount of firepower that they have, and I think he's more useful off the bench. I love the way he plays. I think he's a great fit with this Hawks team, and I think he's got a good shot. Another guy is Bobby Portis. I think that the way he played for Milwaukee down the stretch was really impactful. I thought he got better and better as the season went on because he really understood his role. And remember, when he was in Washington, he was averaging 14 points a game. So he has the ability to make stuff happen. I think that he needs to, as long as he just stays within his game, I think he's got a good shot. And if I had one sleeper, I think a sleeper for this award would be Eric Paschall. And I like Eric Paschall a lot. I wish the Warriors didn't trade him away. I thought that was pretty stupid of them to do. And what I like about him is I feel like Utah knows how to get the best out of people when they come off the bench. They just do. Jordan Clarkson, Joe Ingles, other people through the years. I just feel like they get people that just know what their role is and they accept it. And I think Eric Paschall could be really good for the Utah Jazz. I think he'll have a really solid year, just like he was with Golden State the last 2 years. And I think if I had to pick again, sleeper, but I think he has an outside chance of winning this award.
And for my pick, it's going to be a bit of a mix of a sleeper pick, just mixed in with my overall pick. And that's no bias intended at all. It's actually going to be Kobe White, the GOAT point guard for my Chicago Bulls. And what can I say? This guy has already said, as Will said that I said, this is a media-driven award, and Kobe White is already getting the hype for it. And with the role that Kobe White's playing this year, I can 100% see him getting it. He's going to be the guy that's going to be looking to get a lot of shots off the bench, be that high-volume guy, be that guy that's going to run our second unit, and really just be the firepower of that offense. And, the Bulls, we're taking my prediction with Patrick Williams out. We could see a lineup that looks like Lonzo, Caruso, Levine, DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic. And you can argue that that's a defensive-centered lineup. When you guys got guys like Caruso, who's going to bring perimeter defense and energy. You got guys like DeMar, who's an improved defender, not the greatest, but he's solid. Zach LaVine, who's, in my opinion, a pretty good guy when it comes to on-ball defense and just his energy. And, of course, you got Lonzo Ball, who's just overall a really good defender. And I believe that Kobe White's going to bring that needed spark off the bench for the Bulls. He's going to be out for a bit. I believe that his rumored return date is November to December due to shoulder issues. But Derrick Rose had a lot of hype with only half a year on the Knicks. And if Kobe White could get a majority of his year playing off the bench and just doing a fantastic job, I definitely believe that he has a high chance of winning this award.
Yes, for my pick, Kobe White is kind of my sleeper pick, but my official pick is going to be Patty Mills. I think Patty Mills, you look at it, he's obviously going to be the sixth man for the Brooklyn Nets, one of their best, he'll probably be their best bench player, in my opinion. But he's going to have an elite offensive option next to him at all times, whether it's, Kyrie Irving or James Harden or Kevin Durant. I don't envision the Brooklyn Nets having many lineups where at least one of those three guys isn't on the court for all 48 minutes of the game. So because of that, there's going to be just a lot of floor spacing, and attention will be driven to, one of Kyrie, Harden, or KD. There's going to be a lot of floor spacing and passing around him at all times. Brooklyn Nets are great at just complementary passing that connects all their offense together, and Patty Mills is going to be a huge part of that. So I think Patty Mills is going to have the opportunity to really go out and just ball out, put up really efficient scoring numbers on a winning team. And that's the biggest thing is, like you guys said, is part of this is, media-driven awards and also, team success and winning. And no doubt the Brooklyn Nets are going to be winning a lot of basketball games if they're fully healthy. So I absolutely think Patty Mills is going to be in the running for sixth man of the year. And I think he's going to win the award. But with that said, let's move on to just a quick news recap of some of the smaller news stories, but some stuff that we definitely want to highlight and talk about. First, we'll start off with JJ Redick retiring. Jacob, I'll throw this one to you. How are you going to kind of remember JJ Redick's just overall basketball career?
I remember JJ Redick as a guy that shot the ball a lot, shot the ball more, made a lot of threes, didn't know what defense was. He kind of went to like the Steve Nash school of defense, I think, or the Mike D'Antoni school of defense, which is non-existent.
You don't need to destroy the guy. Like, give him a nice salute and pat on the back.
Calm down. He'll get one. Just you got to wait a little bit. But in all seriousness, no, I mean, I think JJ Redick has had a heck of a career. I'll be honest, I'm kind of surprised he's retiring because I think he still could give a few years. I think he still has a few years left in the tank, and I think he could contribute to a team. But I am not surprised for this reason. I think this is one of the reasons that he felt comfortable retiring is because he's a podcast guy now. In my opinion, if his podcast wasn't this big or he didn't have a podcast, I guarantee you he is still playing in the NBA. No two ways about it. I guarantee you. I really believe that is one of the biggest reasons why he felt okay retiring, because he's like, I have something to do now. I know what I can do with the rest of my life or do for now. I have no problem with that, and I just think that he's okay retiring. He had this whole thing about like his playoff streak. Every team he was on made the playoffs. And then he was on New Orleans a year ago, and then that streak was over. And but in also, JJ Redick is a guy that I think was a very good player at his best, a really good not wing player, a good shooter, a good role player, not much else. And I wish him the best.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is like I'm just gonna remember him for being kind of a winner because he won a ton in high school, he won a ton in college at Duke. Was a 4-year player at Duke, and they won a lot, a national championship in his time. And then he was also, obviously, like you said, the streak. He had his team. He was on a team that made the playoffs every year of his career, except for, I believe, 2019-2020, which is obviously the COVID season, and then the bubble, and then the Pelicans. They were in the bubble, but they didn't do too well, and that streak was over. And then technically last year, he was on the Dallas Mavericks. So I think every year of his career, he made the playoffs, except for that one 2 years ago. I'll just remember him as a winner. But Justin, let's shift over to a different topic here for you. Talk to me about Avery Bradley signing with the Golden State Warriors. That was announced today. Just what's your reaction to that, and how do you think Avery Bradley can, fit in with Golden State?
I love the signing. They worked out Isaiah Thomas as well, and although I want to see Isaiah Thomas get on an NBA team, Avery Bradley's the wiser pick. As the Warriors, I believe it's their last roster spot. And a while back on the show, I predicted the Warriors would make the NBA Finals next season. With this whole Andrew Wiggins thing going on, that makes it a little bit tougher to predict them to go to the finals. But if Andrew Wiggins is playing when Klay Thompson gets back healthy, I think Avery Bradley is going to play a pretty big role in this team. I don't think he's going to be getting around 25, 30 minutes a night. He's not going to be closing games. He's not the player he was on the Boston Celtics a few years back when he was starting. But for a good 14, 15 minutes a night, I really like his role in this team. This Warriors defense is very underrated to me. Draymond Green anchoring it. Andrew Wiggins, if he plays, one of the better defenders in the league now. Juan Toscano-Anderson, and a bunch of other guys around that. That's one of the best defenses in the league, and I believe a championship-level defense. And adding Avery Bradley to that, a guy who, although he is a little worse defensively from his peak, he's still a pretty good defender. And his offense is pretty solid as well. He's a solid shooter. At times can create off 2 to 3 dribbles, and he has a really nice shooting arc. So I really like this for the Warriors, just another vet to throw into the core. And if they're fully healthy, if they have Andrew Wiggins, I still think this team makes the NBA Finals, although it's close with them and the Lakers. I think they could easily make the Finals because I think people are underrating this team. But Avery Bradley, that's a big signing. I like it a lot, and I think he's going to help them out a ton next year.
Nader, final news, kind of smaller news topic is obviously your has to do with your Bulls. Patrick Williams is going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, so he'll miss a little bit of he could miss some of the season. I suppose in theory, if it's 4 weeks, he could miss the start, but he'll probably miss the first week or two of the season with I believe it was a severe ankle sprain injury. So if indeed, Patrick Williams does miss the start of the season, how do you see that impacting the Bulls? And do you think he definitely shouldn't be rushed back? Am I right?
Not at all. No, 100% he should not be rushed back. Patrick Williams, in my opinion, is going to be remembered as the third best player for the 2020 NBA draft class. He has the ability to be a really, really good NBA player. And when I mean really, really good, I mean like all-star level type player. His defense, his fluidity on offense, he has the complete package. He can play make a bit too. And, the adjustments the Bulls need to make is really just moving DeMar to the power forward because I hate the fact that I would hate if any of the guys on the Bulls got injured. I would hate if any NBA player got injured. I hate injuries with passion. I think that they're the worst part of sports. And seeing a guy like Pat Williams go down like this, it sucks. But injuries, they're just part of the game. I'm hoping, and I don't think and the doctors have said, he's going to be able to make a full recovery, which I'm really happy about. And I think the Bulls are just going to need to be able to adjust. They're going to probably plug in a guy like Caruso into the starting lineup, giving Kobe White more control of the second unit. And the Bulls' weakest position is their wings. So we got guys like Troy Brown Jr. that are probably going to get more playing. That is probably going to get more playing time with Patrick Williams out. I don't mind him missing the first 2 weeks of the season, but the thing that scares me about my team being a contending team now is that injuries. We're just one injury away from throwing our whole season out the window. So it's a really scary thing, but I just really hope that Patrick Williams is fine. He makes a good recovery and he's back to begin the season after the first few weeks, and he starts off strong.
Yeah, for sure. Now let's go to a story that it's really just too early to tell how true all of this is and how the situation will shake out, but we're going to talk about it regardless. And that's Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans, and the rumor that he's been pretty disgruntled with the Pelicans for quite some time now, it seems like. Apparently he didn't like how the team just handled his rookie year rehab. If you guys remember, obviously, his rookie year, Zion didn't play for a lot of the season. And then he had that game, I believe it was against the Portland Trailblazers, where he made like 5 3-pointers. And it feels like he's made 5 3-pointers in his career since that game, to be quite honest. But and also his relationship with David Griffin isn't very good. So, Jacob, I'll throw this one to you. How much of a disaster do you think it would be if the New Orleans Pelicans lost Zion, especially after losing Anthony Davis just a few years ago?
It would be a massive disaster. There's no other way to put it. But I mean, again, if you're Zion Williamson, why would you want to stay in New Orleans? No one cares about basketball down there. They don't watch it. They care about the Saints. No one even have people that they don't even know they have a team, for crying out loud. They have like 20 people go to their games. With all due respect, I mean, I don't care what I say, but I mean, if I'm him, like, don't you want to, like, if you're Zion, I mean, everyone knew he didn't want to play there. He just did it because he didn't have a choice. He wanted to be in New York. He wants the bright lights. And
he's not going to the Knicks, Jacob. Give it up.
I mean, hold on. Anywhere he'll go, more people will be watching the games than in New Orleans because, again, no one cares about basketball down there. Nobody. Not even their owner cares, for crying out loud.
The owner owns the Saints.
Exactly. And, but I mean, it's disappointing if you're obviously a fan. I mean, I don't know if you're one of like the 5 fans of the New Orleans Pelicans. I mean, I just think if you're Zion, you have to be, I mean, you got to be careful with what you wish for, and you have to be, if I'm him, I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon. My theory is that if they have another disappointing year, another year where they don't make the playoffs, they don't even sniff the playoffs, he's going to start to get angry, antsy, and he's going to want to get the heck out of there. I mean, that's what I think is going to happen. If he's already distressed now, how do you think he's going to feel if they don't make the playoffs again? And I think they have a really good shot at making the playoffs. I really like a lot of the moves they made. I like their new coach, Willie Green, a lot. I love them getting Valanciunas. I think he's a really good center. I think he's one of the most underrated bigs in the entire league. And, I think that they have a shot. Even in the West, I do think they have a shot. And I just think that if you're Zion, you just got to play the season out. I mean, they have a good nucleus of players. But I mean, it's unfortunate that he had problems with David Griffin. I don't think David Griffin is going anywhere anytime soon. I think he's a pretty good general manager, president of basketball operations. And it'll be interesting to see how Zion does this year, and watching him when they lose, his facial expressions, his body language, those things that I'd be wanting to keep up on, because obviously it's going to be able to tell like how he's feeling. I mean, because again, this is an important season, not just for him, but for the Pelicans as well.
Nader, what do you think can be done at this point to, just not keep going in this direction of just more negativity with Zion and the Pelicans? What do you think can be done to just prevent this situation from getting worse?
Honestly, nothing. But if you were to have to try and make it and do your best to try and keep Zion, although he may be really close friends with Brandon Ingram, you have to explore that option of trading him. They got worse this offseason, whether you like to hear it or not. They ended up trading Lonzo Ball for like Tomas Satoransky. And I love me some Tomas Satoransky, but he is nowhere near Lonzo Ball. Oh, okay. Well, okay.
I think Garrett Temple was on that deal too.
Big man. All right. So, but like in all honesty, the thing that can help Zion is potentially trading Brandon Ingram. He's not a guy that's going to be able to coexist with Zion if they're going to be championship contenders, or even let's not go that far because they're very far off from being championship contenders, but just even playoff contenders. They need to get a big man that can space the floor, potentially look into another young guy in free agency. As much as I'm a big Jonas Valanciunas fan, I think he's a fantastic center, really underrated guy. He's still not going to be able to get out of the paint and shoot the way that a big man would want if he were to play with Zion. And I would be banking and hoping that Kira Lewis Jr. has a really good season, because other than that, those are just the things that can potentially happen to try and keep Zion to stay. But I think that this is one of those marriages that was like never supposed to happen in the first place. Like, we're all expecting Zion to go to a big city, become a big star, not become just not become underrated. Like literally, NBA media forgot about Zion as he's become one of the best scorers in the NBA, which is insane to me because he was probably the second most hyped rookie to ever live, or second most hyped draft prospect to ever live. So there's not much you can do, but if you had to do something, hope that Kira Lewis is great, pursue a big man in free agency, and trade Brandon Ingram. That's all I have to say.
I'm sad to say this, but Justin, before you go, I just want to say that where's the love for Nickeil Alexander-Walker? I think that's the player that's going to help Zion.
I'll give Nickeil
Jake's
that
cousin,
love.
Alexander-Walker.
I'll give Nickeil that love, and I'll give Devontae Graham that love. But Zion, I don't really have much to add, because what is there to do unless they win a championship? Every year we see a surprise team like the Knicks. No one expected the Knicks to be as good as they were last year. Like, every year there's a team that just comes out of nowhere. Maybe the Pelicans can be that with Zion, Ingram, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who I expect to break out, Devontae Graham, who I think could break out. But I don't see them going anywhere. Their defense, it just looks atrocious, honestly. Hopefully Willie Green could potentially turn that around as the coach. But their defense does not look good. Their offense, I expect them to have a great offense next year. I expect Zion to be one of the 3 to 5 top scorers in the entire league next year. And I wouldn't be fully surprised if he led the league in scoring in his third year, but I'm not going to go that far yet. But it's just Zion, as Nader said, Jacob said it, this was never supposed to happen. Zion definitely he's hinted at it multiple times. He wants to be a New York Knick in the future. I don't think he's going to sign a contract extension. I think he's going to
Stop giving Jacob ego boosters, please. Look at him. He's just like smiling in his little corner over there, getting all happy.
Who doesn't want to play for the Knicks? Who doesn't want to be in
I don't want to play for the Knicks.
I don't either. But listen, I think
a lot of players. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving don't want to play for the Knicks.
Well, they're bums.
We don't talk about Kyrie Irving with Jacob. We don't talk.
Kevin Durant's not a bum. Kyrie Irving is Mr. Bum for crying out loud. But that's another show.
Yeah, Jacob, I don't know what your hatred is with Kyrie Irving, but I think Zion Williamson, he doesn't sign a contract extension next offseason. I think he lets his contract run out. I think he'll sign with the New York Knicks once he becomes a free agent, but New Orleans will match it. And I think halfway through his next 4 years after that with the Pelicans, he'll request a trade. I think the Pelicans finish 500 this year and make the play-in. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I think they make the play-in. But, yeah, Zion, it's basically a matter of when, not if. I think there's no way he retires a Pelican.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And Jacob's put this credit to Jacob for this one, but the Zion Williamson and New Orleans Pelicans marriage is like the Kim Kardashian and Chris Humphries kind of marriage. Again, this is credit to Jacob. Jacob is the one who thought of this idea. So good job, Jacob. But that's what this relationship is like. But in all seriousness, I think this is also just a bad look for just small market teams in general but I'll say this, it's a bad look for small market teams in one sense, but you also have the other side of the coin where a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, the organization just won a championship with Giannis Antetokounmpo. So there's definitely two sides, but to highlight just overall for small market teams, here's the truth when it comes to small market teams getting generational talents. When you're a small market team, and you have the opportunity to draft a generational talent, a Karl Anthony Towns who we discussed before, a Zion Williamson, a Luka Doncic, whatever. You have to be everything from a front office perspective, from a scouting department perspective, from just a cap situation perspective, from coaching, the entire coaching staff. Everything has to be just extremely buttoned up, and you have to have your stuff together, because the one thing that small market teams do not have is the luxury to make too many mistakes. Big market teams, they do have that luxury to have some dysfunction in the organization. The Los Angeles Lakers were dysfunctional. Were a dysfunctional organization not too many years ago, obviously, and then they were able to get LeBron James, Rob Pelinka, Jeannie Buss, and they got their stuff together. But I mean, what did the Lakers necessarily do to deserve getting, in the years before, to deserve LeBron James' talents? Not that much from a basketball perspective, and yet they were still able to get him because it's Los Angeles, and LeBron trusted, what Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka sold to him. But for small market teams, they just do not have the luxury at all to be making all that many mistakes, because they can't go out and make up for it in free agency, because they just don't have, the cap space and the money to do that. And they're just not necessarily they can't attract, big time free agents, because they're just not attractive destinations to go to, like Minnesota or New Orleans. So again, it just puts so much pressure on the front offices and ownership to have their stuff together from top to bottom. So once they do get generational talents like Zion, they can please them, like the Milwaukee Bucks. And it's a little bit different because Giannis was a lottery pick, 14th pick in the draft, but he wasn't necessarily supposed to be like the biggest thing ever like Zion and Luka have been. So the Bucks were able to kind of be more patient with Giannis, and Giannis didn't necessarily have like an ego. He still doesn't really have an ego, to be honest, at all, at least compared
Sell
to
the team.
caliber.
Sell the team. Sell the team. They ain't no Smoothie King. Just sell the team. At this point, just sell the team. They care more about the Saints. I think it's obvious.
But yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, just these small market teams, they just have to have everything put together, and they can't afford to make all too many mistakes, or else it's just not going to go the right way, we've seen with Minnesota, as we talked about earlier, and now New Orleans as well. But to cap off the show, we're going to cap it off with some hot and spicy predictions, bold predictions for this upcoming season. We'll each give, 1 to 2, however many you guys want to give. Nader, we'll start with you. What's your bold prediction, or a couple bold predictions? Hit us with them.
I think this one is bold enough. I think this one is bold enough. But actually, no, I'll give 2 bold ones. My first one is that Jalen Green. I don't even think this is really a bold take. My first bold take is going to be that Jalen Green wins Rookie of the Year. I think that he beats out Cade Cunningham, and I think he beats out Evan Mobley and shocks the world, unless you're the pure hooper tween Hezzy Splash community. I think that he shocks the world. I'm not saying that this means that Jalen Green will go on to be better than Evan Mobley or be more deserving than the 2nd overall pick, which he wasn't, or be better than Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is a generational talent and clear of Jalen Green. But I just think that he's one of those guys, and he showed it in the Summer League. He's a score-first guy on a team. He's a score-first guy on a team that's young, that doesn't really have someone that they can step up and give the ball to. John Wall is gone. It's going to be Jalen Green's team in his rookie year, and I think that he's going to take the most advantage of that. He's going to be able to go up, hit any shots that he wants, take any shots that he wants, and I think that the media will just, again, push him to that Rookie of the Year, and I think he'll be pretty deserving of it. I think Evan Mobley will be a guy that will Zion to the Wizards. Come on, Matt. Don't give them ego boosters.
You gotta highlight those comments. You gotta highlight the correct comments. Thank you.
The Wizards are irrelevant.
I love Matt Levine. Matt Levine, shout out to Matt Levine. Matt Levine does a great job.
He's a go. Legend. Matt's my boy.
He's a for that take as well.
Going from New Orleans to Washington is for the NBA franchise like going from dumpster to dumpster. It's just why would you?
Exactly, dumpster fire to irrelevant dumpster fire.
Jacob, you support the Giants. I don't even want to hear you talk.
This is not a football show.
I don't know if we can trump this.
It's a football show.
This might be the hottest take that we have. Zion to the Wizards. That's. Whew.
I mean, yeah, but I believe that guys like Evan Mobley, they won't have the biggest role. They're sharing a lot of touches with guys like Darius Garland and Colin Sexton. Lauri Markkanen is now in that big man rotation. So that's my first bold take. And then my second one would be that the Chicago Bulls end the year with a number 4 seed as a top 4 team in the East and a home playoff team. Shake your head all you want, Jacob. The Knicks haven't smelled the playoff. Oh, wait, they made it last year, but I forgot they got knocked out in 5 games. Well, they haven't, the Knicks are irrelevant, bro. The Knicks are irrelevant. Jacob, can you sound that out for me? Can you sound that out for me? Ear? Come on, follow me, Jacob.
No, I'll let you do it. You seem like the teacher. You do it.
Irrelevant. The Chicago Bulls will finish with a top 4 seed. They have the defense, they got the offense, they have the playmaking, they have that big franchise feel, and just everything about it. And really, what about we got a bench? We got a better bench than you. You're literally starting Kemba Walker. Sure? I don't want to hear it.
Give me your bench.
Have Kemba Walker.
The Knicks 100% have a better bench than the Bulls.
No.
Oh, really?
Doesn't fit my agenda, so I'm going to choose to ignore.
Oh, really?
Doesn't fit my agenda.
The Bulls have like 3 bench
pieces. It'll take 2 minutes, 2 seconds. I want to hear the bench.
If there's one thing that the Knicks do
minus
have,
Kobe
is they
White,
have depth.
What's the bench?
Huh?
Minus Kobe White, what's the bench?
We got a solid backup center, and I'm not even joking. Tony Bradley Jr., solid rim protector for a minimum deal. You guys got guys like Alex Caruso. You got guys like Troy Brown Jr. You got guys like Derek Jones Jr. We're all going to get minutes in the rotation, and that's a pretty solid bench. Now, please, Jacob, let the big boys talk.
Nader, coming from a Wizards fan, Troy Brown Jr. is not that good.
Troy Brown Jr. is pretty good.
Troy Brown Jr. is a good player.
Yeah, the Wizards. You guys had Scott Brooks as your coach. You know what?
Yeah, it's Scott Brooks.
Blow it up. Okay, I'm going to go off. You guys had Scott Brooks, who didn't even know how to use Denny Arpesia. I don't want to hear it.
You used to have Fred Hoiberg crying out loud.
Okay, did I say we went through a rough time? We went through a rough time, but now we have Billy Donovan, top 10 coach. Best front office in the NFL or NBA. Wrong league, my bad. We don't have the Bears don't have a top 10 NFL front office, and we got a top 10 coach. But back to my point before Jacob went on his little tangent about how New York sports is so good. We really, honestly, with the uncertainties of the 76ers with the Ben Simmons situation, the uncertainty of the young Hawks team, and the Celtics, I really think that the Bulls ceiling, they can be even a top 3 team, barring injuries from either the Nets, Heat, or Bucks. I think that we just really have the ability to be a solid team. And Jacob, go cry about it.
Jacob, do you want to give your bold prediction?
Yeah, I will. And
I
don't
hope
worry.
it's
They have
not-
nothing to do with the Bulls, even though I want to
Does it have to do
slander
with the
them
Knicks
after
being a top 4?
No,
Do it.
no,
Do it.
No,
Do it.
no.
I hope
Do
not.
it.
May I talk?
You didn't let me talk.
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
Jacob, we'll all mute ourselves just for you.
Oh, no. You can jump in if you want. But, here we go. So, bold predictions.
I would love to.
The Miami Heat are losing in the first round again. You heard it here first. I don't care that they got Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry goes on vacation when the playoffs happen every single year. I don't care they got PJ Tucker. They had
Come again?
Wait,
Justin,
wait,
I'm gonna let you
Jacob.
take this one. I'm gonna let you take this.
Jacob, who'd
Jimmy
you-
Butler is
Go
the
off.
second biggest crybaby in the league after Kyrie Irving.
Wait,
That's why they
Jacob.
should be playing together.
What?
Did he
Jacob,
reject an
Jacob,
offer
Jacob,
from the
Jacob.
Knicks, Jacob?
I don't
Can
want
you-
him on the next. He just cry and just skip all the meetings and stuff like that, and do his go back to his house or whatever. Not he'd want I don't know. Jimmy Butler drives me crazy.
Wait, Jacob, who do you have them losing to? That's what I want to know.
Don't matter. I don't care.
So
I
you
don't
just
care.
think they're
Oh,
losing?
your Knicks?
Oh.
Your Knicks are
Nah.
gonna be like a 7 seed, gonna get swept. They're gonna get swept, boy.
Nader, the Bulls are getting swept too. I won't even.
The
talk.
Bulls
I
have
don't
to
want to
make
hear
the
it. I don't want to hear it.
The Bulls
Who's
have
your
to
team?
make
Who's your
the
team?
playoffs first.
Who's your
I
team?
won't talk.
Who's
I'm
your
not.
team?
I'm done
Who's your
talking.
team? Who's your team? That's what I thought.
As
Have a
I
good-
was
The
saying, I
Washington
don't know.
Wizards,
I
who
don't-
are going to be the first seed in the East. That's my just kidding.
In
Just kidding.
20 when we're all dead. I don't think Kyle Lowry makes this team that much better. And I say that because we've seen Kyle Lowry in the playoffs. All he does is make it easier for the other team to win series. Why do you think it took him and DeRozan?
What about
Wait,
PJ
who
Tucker?
did? Didn't they had Kawhi Leonard, right?
Because they won the championship.
What about
Didn't
PJ
they have
Tucker?
Kawhi
Kyle Lowry
Leonard?
was really good.
They
If
had Kawhi
Pascal
Leonard, right?
Siakam- Jacob, if Pascal Siakam didn't play like the worst player in the NBA, the Raptors would have been in the conference finals in the bubble only because of Kyle Lowry. If Pascal Siakam played average, they're in the conference finals.
Kyle Lowry is statistically a
I like Kyle
playoff
Lowry,
riser.
but I don't know.
He gets
I
better.
I am not on the Miami Heat bandwagon as much. I mean, maybe they'll get past the first round. I just don't see it. I don't know. I think they'll
Maybe.
be-
What about PJ Tucker? They got PJ Tucker too. Listen to the starting lineup.
I like PJ.
Kyle
Tucker.
Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Duncan Robinson, PJ Tucker, Bam Adebayo. That is an elite starting five, and
That's
they're
a
one of the teams
very
that I
good
regard as high
starting
competition. Come on,
That's
Jacob.
Will you calm down? All right. See, yeah, that's the.
That's a
first
very
one.
what? That's a very what?
No, I mean, I don't know. That's a very good starting lineup. That's not a great starting lineup.
I would label that as great. And before we
And
move on,
just one more thing.
Mute
Yeah.
Jacob, mute him, ban him. You can't talk no more.
Well, hold on. We said we get 2 takes, if I'm not mistaken. Correct? That was
After
one.
hearing the first one, you shouldn't be able to say the second one.
Now,
You shouldn't be able to say the second
now I get 2. That's how you do math, boys. This is what I'm going to say. JB Bickerstaff, if the Cavaliers owners and their GMs, if they are watching their team, you must fire JB Bickerstaff for your own good. I think he will get fired only if they're watching the games because they're going to underachieve. They're going to disappoint. Everything's going to be in a big, cesspool of disappointment. And if they're smart and if they're awake, they are going and they should fire him. I also think that if Sacramento has a tough start, Luke Walton's getting fired because he's not a good coach. They had a good coach. His name was Dave Yeager. They were this close to making the playoffs. And you know what they did? They blew it all up because that's what, horrible teams do. And I also think, real quick, I think that the Portland Trail Blazers and the Dallas Mavericks are both going to be in the play-in tournament.
I agree with that.
I think that
Okay.
they're going to have a hard time doing well because they both hired not great head coaches to replace the ones they had. I've talked ad nauseum about this. Me and Justin did a video. I'm sick and tired of almost talking about how much I've talked about NBA coaches. I think people are sick and tired of hearing it. But
One
Chauncey
decent take,
Billups-
Jacob.
Thank you. Chauncey Billups, I don't think is the right man for the job. I am very worried about that. I don't like the way they constructed their roster. They gave Norman Powell like $90 million. I don't too much money. And I don't like Jason Kidd very much. I just don't. I really don't like it. I think Jason Kidd is a good coach. He's not a great coach.
it's
emphasis.
Jason Kidd's a complete downgrade. From
I
Nick
think,
Carlisle.
although I will say, when he spilled that drink on the ground when he had the great Tyshawn Taylor help him out, just bump into him that one game. That was genius. It was stupid, but it was genius when you don't have a timeout.
Now that's a good take, Jacob.
No.
Finally something you haven't had in years.
No.
Guys, you know who we're going to have on the show next week to join us on the show? JB Bickerstaff.
I think we need like also to invite Kyrie Irving, bring in Jimmy Butler, just have it be like a Jacob therapy
Am I
session.
the only one? Like, what do people see in JB Bickerstaff?
And Chauncey Billups.
We can have him on and
let this sink in. Houston, they barely make the playoffs. He leaves, and yes, it's D'Antoni, but almost the exact same roster minus like Ryan Anderson, and they are like 20 wins better. And yet, like think about this. They fired David Fizdale. Bickerstaff wins 19 games that season. You know what they do? This is what they do. They go, yeah, let's give him an extension because, that's progress. Are you out of your mind? I mean, I just don't. Yes, I understand. His dad was a good coach. Fine. But not everything is genetic.
Jacob argues for nurture over nature. You heard it here first.
You're damn right. And I'm not going to take up any more time.
Justin, give us your bold prediction or a couple bold predictions.
So I have technically 3, but 2 of them are kind of combined. So I'll say 2 at 1 right now. This is I wouldn't expect this to be that bold. One part of it is, but I wouldn't expect the other part to be that bold. But apparently it is. I think the Atlanta Hawks will finish the regular season with the second best record in the East and the second best record league-wide. Now, and I also, the other take I forgot to mention, I think Trae Young will be a top 4 MVP candidate next year and potentially a winner because I think the MVP is going to be tough next year, but I don't think Trae will win, but he'll be up
You see the new rules, bro? There ain't nothing more of that foul stuff anymore.
Ooh,
no more of that foul stuff.
Trae Young.
No more of that foul.
Trae Young. Did you see what he did in the
I know about
playoffs?
Trae Young, Glover, top 15 player in the league, but
He
I don't know about
can't win
MVP.
all the fouls. He's still going to average an easy 26 and 10 while getting the 2 seed and the second best record in the league. So the Hawks, I mean, they made the conference finals last year. People don't know this. I mean, I think people are just saying that the Hawks are going to take a drop off back to like the 5 seed again because that's what they were last year. But they had in the regular season when they added Nate McMillan, they had a top 3 record in the league. And they followed that up in the playoffs with the conference finals appearance, beating the number 1 seed Philadelphia 76ers. Now, I don't think they make the conference finals again, but I think we start to see their development. I think Trae Young, again, is going to be an MVP candidate. I think John Collins stays around near 20 and 10 guy. I think DeAndre Hunter, if he stays healthy, is going to be that 18 points per game, 3-and-D player that he is, just an off-ball shot-creating hybrid. And Bogdan Bogdanovic, a guy I like a lot as a secondary guy in the backcourt next to Trae Young. Clint Capella, one of the best centers in the league. I like Kevin Huerter a lot. Danilo Gallinari, as Jacob mentioned before, he's a great player. And I think Cam Reddish takes another jump. And Lou Williams will be solid in spurts. And even a guy like Jalen Johnson, I think, could play right away when needed. And they also added DeLon Wright. Even though Onyeka Okongwu was out, who I thought was going to make a pretty big jump, they still have a really deep team. And I don't think the playoff run was a fluke at all. I think this team's just going to become even better next year. And I think people are sort of forgetting about them. And to sort of go into another take, the team that the Hawks beat last year was the Philadelphia 76ers, and I have them dropping to 6th in the East, and I don't think they'll be a 50-win team next year with the 82-game schedule. And it's hard to really evaluate the Sixers with the Ben Simmons thing going on, but I just think it's going to be a mess. I don't think they know what they're doing. I don't think they know what they have. I think Joel Embiid will get injured again because that's kind of just it happens every year, and I don't want to wish an injury upon anyone, but I think it's going to happen, unfortunately. And I don't know if they know what they're doing because it's so confusing, and I don't think it's fully their fault. It's because Ben Simmons with his ego thinking like everything should be catered towards him. Even though I like Ben Simmons, it may seem like I don't like him. It's not fully the Sixers' fault. So I think the Sixers will be below the Nets, Hawks, Bucks, Celtics, and Heat in the standings, and I think they lose first round. And I just want to throw in one more because of Nader. I don't think the Bulls are as good as you say they are. I think the Bulls will
You said they were the 8th seed. You
Yes,
said they're the 8th seed.
Yes, they're the 8th seed, and they will beat
They're
Jacob's
not.
Knicks. They will beat Jacob's Knicks in the play-in, according to my bracket. But I'm thinking about it more.
Jacob, want a double team? Jacob, you want to make like a quick alliance and just go off on him?
The East
Next week, we'll save it for next week.
Next week.
The
Next
East
week.
is
How about
so
next
stacked.
week?
And I think the Pacers are better than the Bulls for the regular season. So, yeah, that's a bold take. I just wanted to see Nader. But, yeah, those are my bold takes for next year.
All right, I'll share one bold take real quick. You guys are gonna strap your seatbelts in for this one. This is a really bold take that's most likely going to backfire, and it has to do with the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz are going to win 70 games in the regular season. 70 games, yes. This is such a bold prediction. That is so out of this. Might be. I don't even know if this is out of left field.
Is Jerry Sloan alive? Is Jerry Sloan alive now?
Blink twice if you're in trouble.
Is Jerry
Blink twice
Sloan
if you're in trouble.
dead to coach this team? Is John Stockton and Karl Malone coming out of retirement?
No. Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell are on this team, and they're going to lead the Utah Jazz to 70 wins in the regular
Blink
season.
twice if you're in
In
trouble.
the West?
Yes, in the West. And let me explain why. I just think the formula is there for them to dominate again. To me, I think the Utah Jazz, you can pencil them in for 60 to 65 wins. You have an MVP caliber. I think Donovan Mitchell is, last year got some MVP love. Ultimately, I don't think that was really deserved for the most part. In the playoffs, all the love he got in there was 100% deserved. The regular season, not so much. But I truly do think Donovan Mitchell is going to have a worthy MVP caliber season this year. Maybe not my pick to win it, but he'll be in the conversation, and he should rightfully be in that conversation this year. At least that's what I'm going to predict. Rudy Gobert is going to continue to be great in the regular season, and it's just their cast of role players is so deep. I mean, from Mike Conley being one of the better perimeter defenders in the NBA to 2 Sixth Man of the Year candidates that they will have again in Joe Ingles and Jordan Clarkson, 3 maybe even, with Eric Pascal, according to Jacob. I mean, hey, yeah, if Eric Pascal takes the jump that Jacob says he can, then my 70-win Utah Jazz prediction is going to be even more correct. But look, I think the Utah Jazz, they're just, it's elite defensive team with Rudy Gobert in the regular season, and they're an elite 3-point shooting team. That was the formula for the one. I'm not comparing them to the Golden State Warriors, but the Golden State Warriors, they did win a whole lot of games from elite 3-point shooting and elite defense. I think the Utah Jazz have a similar formula, obviously without the 3-headed monster that the Warriors had. But it's going to be enough to just drown teams out in the regular season. I don't care that they were in the West. They still dominated last year. I mean, they went on like a 15, 20 something on a huge win streak last year, and they were in the West. So I don't think that the being the West matters really at all. Again, I think you can pencil them in for 60 to 65 wins, but I'm going to go the extra mile and say they reach 70 wins, which means 12 losses is their max. 12 losses.
Will.
Jacob's calling me cuckoo. I'll be honest, guys, a month into the season, this could be like an awful take, and the Jazz could have 10 losses already and be 16-10 on the season, and my take's looking awful at that point.
Will, I have a question. If you think the Jazz win 70 games, where do you think they go in the playoffs?
I think the Utah Jazz conference finals probably. Or
second round exit.
Second round conference finals is what there will be. I again, this is I have just the utmost confidence that they're going to do great in the regular season. I'm just really, and the playoffs, I definitely still have my question marks. But to me, they're still definitely a team that, they were, Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley injury away from potentially making the Western Conference Finals last year. So to me, I think they're second round to Western Conference Finals team. But I may be, no, I am going to call myself crazy for picking the Utah Jazz to win 70 games. It's what? 2 teams have done that in NBA history. Utah Jazz are going to be the third. Mark it down. We're going to come back to this.
You're going to look like a genius if you get this right, Will. That's it's like the same thing. You bet on for UFC, you bet on the worst possible fighter and the biggest odds that way. And the small chance that they do win, you look like a genius. And if they don't, you say that it was a crazy take and you're fine.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly what's going to happen with my Utah Jazz prediction. But guys, that's going to do it for On the Ball here on another Friday night. Thank you for joining us so much. Before we get out of here, just want to remind you all to, of course, subscribe if you enjoyed the show. Download the TWSN mobile app for just more content from us. Obviously, Justin had his article. Justin's been pumping out the articles. I had my article. Just came out a couple days ago on Karis LeVert. You can check that out. Of course, you can check out Justin and Nader's content as well. And everyone else here at TWSN, we do fantastic work. Also, obviously, I mean, I'm sure you guys know because we've been promoting the hell out of it. But TWSN, we have a betting service. With the NFL season, it's arrived. It's here. About week 3 is about to kick off on Sunday. We have all of our predictions. UFC card is coming up this weekend. We're gonna have best bets for all that content. And NBA season, we'll have some betting content as well. So you make sure you want to hop on that train early before the whole crowd comes into that. So thank you so much for tuning in for On the Ball. We'll be here next week. Only a few more shows until the NBA season is here. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now because it's the place that it all goes down.